Welcome to the main stage, as Rakesh said. Thank you to the Spring Fair for asking me to do this, and also by extension letting us as the recipe and Hill Interiors decorate with the flowers in the main stage. So great opportunity for us. Today, in the spirit of all things Spring Fair, we're going to talk about interiors and future trends, but how we use our faux flowers to accessorise and use them for decor, and what we can look forward to from the world of faux flowers as we go forward. First, who am I and why am I stood up here before you today? I'm Sarah Garforth, as you said, and I'm the Floral brand manager for Hill Interiors for their faux flower brand, The Recipe. I've got background across Canada, France and the UK doing interior styling and property development, and then most lately floral design. And if I say flow flowers today, I apologise because it just keeps coming out, so I'll try very hard just to say faux flowers. Just a little bit about the background of the recipe, and I'll do the slides as well as we go through. What is a recipe? Why have we called ourselves The Recipe? It came into fruition in 2017 when I was asked to join Hill Interiors and make their flowers look pretty. Somewhere in November and December of that year, we decided that they probably couldn't look that pretty and a major overhaul was needed. And in January of 2018, after many, many late nights, we launched the recipe here at the Spring Fair. And what an amazing year we've had so far, leading me to standing here before you now to talk about faux flowers going forward. So what's a recipe and why are we calling ourselves a recipe? When we think of a recipe, we probably think straight away of a culinary concept, something that you put together to make a cake. But it can apply to anything. So, for example, how do we decorate a sofa? We take one sofa, 7 cushions, a rug, and put that together with the method. And the same is entirely true of flower arranging. Essential for weddings and events and home decorating and your own arrangements, but equally as important is for when we purchase and merchandise our faux flowers too. So that's a little bit about me. It's a bit of an ambiguous title. Floral isn't going anywhere. So what I thought I'd do first of all is just do a very, very quick history of where flowers and faux flowers have come from, because we're not going anywhere, but we've also been here for a very long time as well. So in brief, and I mean brief, it is quite interesting if you want to ask me about it later. As far back as the ancient Egyptians, Romans, Greeks, they all shared a love of flowers. The Egyptians preferred neat, orderly arrangements, whereas the Greeks liked it more if you threw the flowers on the ground and enjoyed the fragrance as you stomped around on them. We can thank the Greeks for the floral garlands that we see today and the wreaths that we use. And then if we move into Roman times, we can thank them for things like the floral crowns and using flowers as gifts and flowers for adornment and what we wear as corsages. But in terms of home decor and accessorizing our homes, it was in the Renaissance period that it really became a thing. We see the use of florals for the sake of art and beauty in this period, and the big, huge, colourful arrangements we can sort of see and take some inspiration from in today's modern styling. The 17th century brought lots of new and exotic plants, so it exploded again further. And the Dutch masters' paintings and from that Flemish period are some things that we use and see in modern floristry design now. As we move into the 18th and 19th century, we can see the small compact arrangements of the Rococo period in the Parisian drawing rooms, the more intimate things, and again we can see those echoed on tabletops now. And then we look again at the Georgian hearth, where the young ladies used to do it as an accomplishment alongside sewing and what have you. In terms of faux flowers, they've been around for time immemorial. The Chinese and Japanese used to create silk flowers in the interest of symmetry. They would like to have an arrangement, and if one flower from nature didn't echo the other one, they would create a silk version. In Europe, as far back as the 12th century, we've got the Italians using the cocoon of the silkworm, but it was the French, led by fashion, millinery, dressmaking and home design, that really blew up the faux flower industry. At the turn of the French Revolution, we benefited from that because all the faux flower designers and makers fled to England. And believe it or not, in 1891, there were over 4,000 producers of faux flowers in England. So what happened? Why do we still think of faux flowers in the 1970s as these revolting, brightly coloured, horrible things you saw on an Indian table or something that your great aunt would give you for Christmas and you didn't really want them? War, austerity, fashion, developments, plastic, mass production, Far East trade, lots of things, but they all contributed to the downfall of the quality of faux flowers, and that's probably what we all remember at that point in our sort of generational, as we are sat around here. So what brought them back into fashion? A number of things, like anything. We've spoken to suppliers, customers, our retailers, and researched, and it seems that there isn't any one given reason, but just a combination of factors, which happily means for us that they're back on the map. Better manufacturing techniques, price of fresh has gone up, people with allergies, and also we're very busy people. We take it, we've got disposable income, we want things that are versatile, quick and easy to use, and we see that our design as an extension of our personality. We want to showcase our interiors and show that that's our personality in our homes. And it's not just to our friends and family, but these days with social media, we're also extending that across Facebook and Instagram, and if that's not on a personal level, we're certainly doing it as influencers and bloggers. I think it's probably all of the above, but I also think, as history has taught us, that we like to have beautiful things in our homes. We like to be surrounded by things, and we like to change things about, and we also love nature. So flowers are here, and in whatever guise, they'll be here to stay. So what can we expect from faux going forward? I've looked at sort of the design trends, and we've looked at the Tamara, who's talking with the Ideal Home later, about what kind of design trends there are at the moment. And what it seems to be is that the one thing we can say is it's nature. We want nature in our homes. We want to extend that feeling of having the outdoors inside. And there's 4 kind of discernible trends that we can look at. So if we take those one by one at the moment, and then we'll look at that in practical application and how we can buy our faux and go forward with that. So if we look at this natural element, we're talking about like sustainability, bringing the outside in, timeless pieces, relationship with nature. We want to know the provenance of the pieces that we're buying. It's a very minimalistic look. And from a floral perspective, I'd be looking at all things simple. For floral arrangements, and I use the word floral loosely because we're looking more at things like twigs and eucalyptus and greenery stems and branches. Very much keeping the same thing in a vase at any one time. So large statement vases, something that speaks for itself really, with an abundance of stems. I would suggest start with 24 because anything in that sort of volume will have a bit of a statement, and make it the only feature in the room. If you add to this then some sort of carefully placed potted plant or a grass, such as a monstera, ficus, something like that with a soft rounded leaf would work well. And I don't want to discourage investment in this type of look, but it is very simple and very underdone. There are those that want to expand it a little bit, and you see this with this greenery panels for sort of the braver souls who want to bring that green element into the homes, but they don't necessarily want to use stems and things like that. So they're really embracing that outdoors in feeling. So we're moving away from perhaps the Jungalow influence, where it was loads and loads of greenery plants and what have you, into more of a clean, greenery inspired, inspirational outdoor thing. People do this with fresh flowers because of the cleaner air, the purification of air, but for every fresh flower that we have, there's a faux alternative because not everybody wants to deal with fresh. These are they look really hard, but they're not hard to do. And if you've got any florists in the room or anyone that you know can do it, it's basically just taking mesh grid and putting your faux through it. So it seems quite an intimidating project, but it's actually not. And the amount of faux flowers that you would put into something like this is a lot. So it's quite a good income generator if it's something that you can merchandise with and then get somebody to want to buy it or sell it for them. We have some of these panels on our stand down in Hall 1 if you want to come down and have a look, and I can pull them apart and show anybody how to put them back together again. So that's if we're going really back to nature, but not everybody wants to go totally back to nature, and we can still enjoy our bright colours and our statement pieces and our sumptuous interiors and still have that natural feel. Dark walls, opulence, jewel tones and statement furniture, they completely flood social media at the moment. We've got everything clashing together. It seems to be totally de rigueur to put together every colour under the sun. There's a bit of a divided opinion whether this look will continue or whether it will develop and mature. And while it seems to be a fully entrenched design, I think that it might just probably mature itself and see less of the clutter but more of the statement piece, like statement artwork, and less clutter. In terms of florals, for me, this is sort of a bit of a floral playground. You can sort of, more is more in this scenario, and we can see a mix of the more traditional blooms but in really bright, vibrant colours, which may not necessarily be botanically correct but certainly bring that pop of colour into the room. I saw we've got some coral gladioli, and a blogger on Instagram recently just put them in a room. The most bizarre combination of dark walls, leopard skin, statement artwork, and then coral gladioli, and it worked and it looks amazing. And then we've sold absolutely loads of them because of that. And that's the sort of creativity. It's like daring to be bold and daring to be brave. If you're mixing things like purple orchids and then you put in a coral gladioli next to it, and then just put some loose hydrangea, it's lots of different textures and lots of different colours. And then you can mix that with like big jars of tumbling greenery as well, and just keep going for that more is more is more, and with different textures again. So we can introduce things like seed pods and branches, just to give that extra texture. Another way of doing that is bringing plants into the room. So things like, we're seeing lots of statement plants in this type of environment. Again, it's just bringing that nature back into the house. And that where potted plants are used as more of an extension of your floral arrangements. So you might have a potted plant next to a vase of flowers, next to a vase of greenery, but it all comes together to create like a little vignette that you can see. I think the key for this one is just to be brave and just go big or go home, basically. And then if we move along and look, we're going back to this kind of Nordic Scandi feel, and I kind of, every time I look at this, I think it's a bit of a love child between shabby chic, Hugar, new Scandi, old Scandi. It kind of just brings all of those things together. It's more streamlined, it's cleaner. It's kind of the pastel oilcloth chalk paint's gone out, and we've got the bare woods and the chunky knits and the bold prints. It's the kind of thing that you just want to curl up in and be really comfortable. And if 2018 saw half of Instagram filled with dark walls and jewel tones, the other half saw monotone filters and colour schemes that looked still comfy and inviting but very white and very blank. It's like that sustainable element again. It's got real warmth though to it as well, so we've got lots of fabrics and textures coming in, which again will echo through into our florals. And as it evolves for 2019, I expect to see this envelop some deeper shades as well. But for our flowers, I think we're just looking at really simple things like blousy pastel shades, nice blooms. We're sort of looking at that traditional flower again, like the hydrangea or the rose or the ranunculus, but sort of just keeping them in single stem vases, not making arrangements, not making them too complex and too compact, sort of more intuitive. So if you put them in the vase and some of them want to fall out one way, let them fall out that way, and think about how they would look if they were in nature, if they'd grown out of the ground. It's kind of having that really natural vibe, and just using those really natural neutral colours and dusty hues, and we bring in the greenery in this tends to be more of like a sagey green, so nothing too harsh, nothing too sharp. You want to look at potted plants that with soft round leaves again, nothing sharp. And if you're in pots, you want to soften it with baskets or stoneware or something like that. I think it's just keeping the florals again to a minimum, but when they're done, do them really classy. There is a bit of a trend still for the nomadic tribal artisan coming in, and this is where we get to see the other side of it. So we've looked at like the soft and the flowery side, but this way we're looking at building on that whole bohemian lifestyle and bringing together again texture, fabrics and what have you. So we're looking at statement pieces in this instance really. So cacti, massive ones if you can get them, and then compare those with small ones as well. Potted plants, any sort of potted plants, but looking for more linear shaped leaves. So instead of the round leaves of the monstera and the ficus and the fig tree and stuff, we're looking at things like pistache and palm fronds and aspidistra and parlour palms, a bit almost going back into 1970s, what your mum would have in the bathroom. I have read that succulents have had their day, but our figures still show that they are selling, and I think a well-potted succulent would probably have its home here. And again, hanging baskets, that type of thing. you see. From a floral perspective, I don't think there's a huge bloom area for this in this type of look, but probably looking at more spherical, tall stems, narrow neck vases, so things like alliums, scabiosa, cruspedia, anything that's got that spherical shape, and keeping them as a real pop of colour to complement the greenery that you've got going around. Another thing to use would perhaps just be some tall flowering branches and have those as a bit of a statement piece. I mean, even a forsythia with lots of yellow on it would look good in this instance. And then lastly, there's this kind of the country traditional stronghold of the sweet pea in the jam jar on the kitchen table, but taking on this really dark tone vibe again. It's been kind of overtaken with taking a call to nature right down. We all want to look like we've just been in a wood and come back and brought back the most amazing bouquet of flowers. Again, bringing nature inside the house. So we're looking at things like foliage and berries and branches and things that you can forage from outside of your own garden, and then complementing that with things that are in your garden, but growing more sort of meadow-based flowers. So if you're doing these in vases, it's always the same thing. It's sort of like an accidental vase, a jug or a tin pot or something. And then because we're looking at nature, again, we're not doing tight, compact things anymore. We're looking at making little vignettes on our kitchen table where we might have some seed pods in one thing, and then we might have some cut down leaves or something in another. Then we might have some fresh meadow flowers in another, and just keeping that in the, in various little containers, and as I say, creating these vignettes. And even things like berries on the table, dried up leaves, or even fungi in some cases as you see it, but just bringing that real nature into the house. When I say meadow flowers, I feel as if there is a market for traditional flowers, but if we're talking about trend-based, we're looking at what I call meadow flowers, so things that have got more texture to them. So anything that you can mix in with a twig that doesn't totally dominate with a big spherical head, I suppose, on it. So things like your cosmos and your foxglove and nigella have kind of gone and sort of in and taking over from things like roses and hydrangeas, and the ones that you can put in with twigs and things once again, and like big statement vases in your hallway with different bits and pieces. So how does all of this translate into what you can buy now? Because this is great to know where this is the sort of look that we're going forward into 2019, but out of all of that, how do we put that into practical application? What are the product trends that you kind of want to invest in today at the show, and what you want to look at? So we've just done a bit of research and looked at the things that are selling for us as a faux flower supplier. And we're looking at things like grab and go. So by that I mean pots, basically, that you can pick up or very easy to arrange and put together. Little short stem things that will go straight into a pot with you don't need any floristry skill whatsoever. So your orchids, your hebes, or your succulents, again, they say they're going, but they still sell really well. Just something that we can pick up as a consumer society and put on our table and feel like we've done something really pretty, but we haven't had to put a great deal of effort into it. Indoor gardens. It was a massive thing, and then it didn't seem to be anymore, but people are still buying it. So grasses, parlour palms, trees, anything that they can bring into the house, like little hanging terrariums, it's still really popular, and I can't see it going anywhere for the moment. So trends may say that it's going this way, but our figures say, well, people still like this, so invest in it and put it out there. Realism, I think that's quite obvious. The more real the flower, the more anybody's going to want to buy it, and that seems to be the thing. People keep coming on saying your flowers are so real. So it's a case of, if you think it looks good, then your customers are going to think it looks good, and that's the way forward. I mean, there's some people now that are doing scented flowers, but they're really expensive, so we're not doing that just yet until they get cheaper. And then greenery. For every flower that you do buy, you need to be thinking about buying 3 to 5 times as much of the greenery, because for every flower that you sell, we always sell that equivalent more in greenery stems, because people want to mix them and make the bouquets. So, you know, you put one flower, then you put 3 pieces of greenery, another flower, and you put 3 pieces of greenery. So if you're doing your flower order, I'd be thinking about adding that onto it as well. It's okay thinking about trends and what's coming in and what's going, but there will always be the enduring floral styles, and these things are they seem to be here to stay. So for every meadow flower that we sell, we will sell just 10 white hydrangeas, or because that's just what we class as an enduring floral style. I've picked out 4 of them, which you will know your customer base, whether it's something that you can apply to that. You'll have to make that decision, but these are the 4 ones for us that seem to withstand. So the classic white, and this does withstand. It just seems to go through every time. So we'll have customers that will come on, want the trending flowers, but then they'll come on, and this is the way you know that they want to go forward, because they know their clients. Things like hydrangeas, tulips, roses, gladioli, dahlias. It doesn't seem to matter whether it's seasonal or not, but they want white flowers with some greenery, and they want it in arrangement, and they know how they want it. They'll sell it either in a compact vase, or they'll put it all loose and sort of more arty, as if like nature. And we are trying to sort of say you may sell more if it's left more natural, but people know their customers, and this is a good way to a good investment if you know that your customers like white flowers. Traditional blooms, the move is to nature, and it's to all the plant-based products, and it's towards all of the meadow flowers, the natural flowers, the seed heads, all of that sort of thing. But again, there's still a market for traditional blooms, just pastel-y colours, roses, peonies, things that you would traditionally grow in a garden. And again, for every on-trend flower that we sell, we also sell just as many, if not more, of these ones. We are actually, because of this, we do a signature supply programme, and we're just looking at doing a baby supply programme where people can dip in with different styles and take them, and this is going to be one of our packages, is the traditional blooms package. And then lavender, love it or hate it, everybody it sells, and if it's something that you think that your client will take, then you should buy it, because it just seems to go and go and go and go, and it's one of our longest standing products, and it's one that we've keep reinvesting in and keep going forward with. It's good for merchandising, it's cheap, it's versatile, and I think it's just something that people consider to be a staple classic of floral decorating. I like lavender. I just am amazed it keeps going stronger and stronger. And then seasonal flowers. So we've got versatility within our faux flowers, but we can use any flower at any time. But we still have customers who come back and they want to buy seasonally. And I mean, a lot of that does tend to be the florist-based customers, but we do have people in the shops and they sell as if they are florists. So they'll have gift shops and they will sell their flowers seasonally as if someone was coming in January and they wanted to buy themselves some ranunculus, and if they were coming in the summer, they'd want some peonies and some roses. Autumn, berry-based stems. Winter, there's people who like white flowers for winter, but traditional reds and traditional berries always sell, and the darker greens at that period as well. We can't seem to keep we've got 2 sets of berries. We've got some berries that survived the initial cull when we did the flowers, and they're not particularly amazing, but they still sell, and we keep them. And then we bought in some really beautiful berries, and they sell. So it doesn't seem to matter whether but just the fact that they're berries seems to make them go really well. So it's just another way of thinking about how you want to buy your products. So for us, where are we taking the faux next? We want to continue to search for realism. We want to develop further flowers. We want to take feedback from people and see what is selling and what continues to sell, and follow the trends. We're going to keep striving for that realism. I think we've had an unprecedented success this year with a combination of factors, but not least because of the quality and the realism of our flowers. And we'll keep working with suppliers to keep this apace. And then I'd be lying if I didn't say we didn't want floral domination. So our signature supplier programme is growing. And if anybody is interested in that, I'd happily speak to you about that. And we have 2 different tiers now that we're rolling out. But it is going really well. And that, I think, concludes my little spot in the limelight. So I hope some of that was useful to you in terms of floral trends, but I'll be happy to talk and probably get more information out of me if I talk to you one-on-one at the end of it, but you're welcome to ask me any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Do you have any questions from the audience? No, I think
You can ask me
everything.
afterwards.
There we
It's
go.
fine.
Big round of applause for Sarah, please.
Oh, sorry. On the chairs, there's, sorry, marketing director's just waving a flower at me. We've handed out some free flowers. If you want to add them to a bouquet, if you come down to our stand in Hall 1 at D10, we'll take your details and we'll send you out a bouquet that your flowers can go into. So, and those are one of our best selling flowers, so we thought we'd treat you all. Thank you very much.